everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Outside Line Podcast. The Outside Line Podcast. Outside Line Podcast.
Hang on to her, buddy. There's still three. He got him. He's
It just makes sense. It's too logical for them, for NASCAR, though.
Carson.
I'm glad you hear us, NASCAR. Make sure you keep listening. We'll see what happens. I'm going to take a breath here. That was a long rant.
Those cars are a lot tougher than an F1 car.
Yeah, that's what I like about IndyCar. You really need the spotter.
This is going to be fun.
So, if you guys did not watch the race yesterday at Laguna Seca,
you missed out. That was a mess.
It was a mess. But how many cautions were there? 9? It was 8 or 9.
I want to say it was 10, 11.
It was around there. So either way, Scott
Dixon,
more than
5.
It was a lot more than 5. Scott Dixon got another win of the year. Man, he was holding out. He was definitely holding out on his wins for the year until the last 4 races. With wins in 3 of the last 4 races, he got as close as he could to Palou, but still wasn't enough, seeing as Palou clinched the championship last week at Portland. Great effort by Dixon. For me, it would have been cool to see him get that 7th championship. Maybe he can do it next year if he's still around.
Oh, he's going to still be around. I think he's one of these guys that's going to be racing until he's 50.
Listen, if Dixon is the Iceman for a reason. So I think he will be I agree with you. I think he'll be around for a couple more years.
At least. He's 43 right now? 44?
Around there, yeah. So he's got at least 2 more seasons in him, in my opinion. And speaking of Elio, this was his last full-time ride.
I'm a little bit sad to see him go.
Yeah, because Elio and Dixon were always the guys to watch in the mid-2000s.
Elio, Dixon, Franchini.
Early 2010s, all of them. So
then if you want to go back further, Elio, Dixon, Franchini, Kanaan, Montoya.
Man, talk about some names right there.
Yeah.
So, Dixon got another win on the season, his 3rd in the last 4 races. His first at Laguna Seca. But ultimately, like we said earlier, Alex Palou clinched the championship last weekend, got his trophy this weekend, is officially a 2-time IndyCar champion. So really good weekend for Chip Ganassi Racing. Really good weekend because Marcus Armstrong, who was also Rookie of the Year, signed a multi-year extension with Ganassi earlier in the week.
Another F2 guy coming to IndyCar.
He just kind of popped out of nowhere, didn't he?
Which is another reason to think that Mick could come over.
That's what I'm saying. I would love for it to happen. But, so like I said, Marcus Armstrong, Rookie of the Year, and now at least going to be around with Ganassi for at least a couple more years. What do you guys think about this? Because he has potential. Did he win a race this year? I don't think he did. No. Okay. So if he can win a race next year, how long do you think it'll take him?
That's hard to say. What car is he going to be driving? Have they announced? Because that might make a difference.
I think he'll be in the same car that he was just in. Let me look. He should still be in the 11 next year.
Yeah, it's hard to say because rookies can be kind of all over the place, and I guess he's not a rookie anymore, but first and second year drivers can be a little bit all over the place in IndyCar.
It takes time to get your feet wet, especially with just there's so many veterans and so many guys that are just so they've been around for so long. I mean, you look at just to name a few names. I mean, you got Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, and that's not even mentioning the guy who just won the championship, Alex Below, who's still quite young as well. So there's a lot of guys who have a lot more experience. So it's a lot to expect them to come out and just win right away, especially with a lot of these other guys that he's racing against. I mean, the competition's about as good as it's probably ever been at this point.
And it's great for IndyCar in general. IndyCar is in a good place right now. And it's really growing. Like it's getting to the point where it was before Tony George split it up. I'm not salty. Do you all know the story?
It's familiar. It sounds familiar.
Well, IndyCar, long story short, is a lot more complicated than this, but IndyCar was had been one series for like 20 years or so. And Tony George comes along and he wants to make more of oval heavy schedule and change the rules to where it's more so a spec series, all kinds of stuff. And he kept pressuring that for that. Then he decided to go and make his own series, which became IRL and split IndyCar into two different things, CART and IRL.
Right.
And CART was the leader in a long time, but then they just fell apart. And IndyCar right now is basically the successor to IRL. But they merged back together in 2008.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Gesundheit.
So sorry.
No, you're not.
I couldn't mute the mic. I couldn't mute the mic fast enough. Sometimes the sneeze comes faster than my ability to mute my mic.
You know,
Hey,
I've noticed whenever you're watching anything on TV, like a sporting event or anything, you never see anybody sneeze.
It's because they cover it up away from the mic.
No, it's not even on the mic. Well,
yeah.
But even then, it's like on the bench or something. You never see anybody sneeze.
Who knows?
Speaking of sneezing, did y'all hear about the big old Andretti news?
No. Are they sick?
No, but they did a big rebrand.
I did not hear about this.
Yeah, they're still Andretti Autosport, but there's a new kind of thing there called Andretti Global. And wasn't that supposed to be the F1 team name? And two, I looked on Twitter and saw something very interesting on Andretti Autosport Twitter page. It had IndyCar written in capital letters. And to me, that says they're specifically saying that's their IndyCar name, which tells me that they could be getting teams in other places, i.e. F1.
Or that could be how IndyCar spells their name.
Yeah, that could be too.
But who knows?
But at the same time, though,
it's a little convenient.
The Andretti Global thing, though, is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Which
it's just it's a little too convenient.
Which there are rumors circulating that the deal is either done or almost done to get them into F1. And now they're just kind of waiting around to either release it or waiting on the paperwork. And if they get their paperwork submitted, I've read where there's almost no way that they could stop Andretti from joining. No matter how much F1 and the teams not want them to join, there's no way they can stop them at that point.
Right. Who knows? We'll see what the possible Andretti F1 deal will lead to in the next couple months. Maybe something will come out of it, maybe not. Fingers crossed. But getting back on track with some news from last week, more driver news. David Malukas, he will start driving for McLaren starting next year.
Is he taking Pelot's place?
He is taking Rosenquist's place.
Well, I mean, Pelot, he was supposed to go to McLaren.
Pelot is at McLaren.
Pelot was signed a contract with McLaren and he was supposed to go over there. But he decided to say, nah, never mind. So I wonder if Malukas is taking Pelot's place.
No, he's taking Rosenquist's place. Pelot signed a deal to stay with McLaren, I believe.
Speaking of that, did you see what Zach Brown said on the pre-race show at IndyCar?
I did. It was interesting.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Let me bring it up. Give me a second.
So going back to, before you bring that up real quick, Chris, going back to David Malukas, he is coming from Dale Coyne Racing to Arrow McLaren starting next year. So he will be in Felix Rosenquist's seat as Felix Rosenquist goes from McLaren to Meyer Shank Racing starting next year. So a lot of silly season stuff playing around last week, as it is well underway already, even though we are already just 1 day into the off season, as this is being recorded on a Monday. Chris, let's talk about Zach Brown real quick.
All right. So he had some very interesting comments concerning Alex Pelot and his reconsideration of staying at IndyCar or staying at McLaren, his issues there. When asked if the Pelot situation caught Brown off guard, Brown replied, quote, "Well, anytime you have a signed contract, you are expected to honor that contract, but obviously he's chosen not to. But we are a big organization, and we have people who actually would like to drive for us, and we want people who want to be in with our racing team. We have a great driver lineup with Alex and Pato, Alexander Rossi, Pato Award, of course, and we're very excited to have Malukas join us, so we'll be fine."
Interesting.
Very
Extremely interesting
comments. So it sounds like to me Mr. Zach Brown ain't too pleased none with Alex Pelot.
Who knows? But I'm sure we will be finding that out in the next couple months. The drama with McLaren continues, even with Pelot. Hold on. Did I say that? Who did I say that Malukas was taking Pelot's place, or
That's what I was saying. Was Pelot supposed to take Rosenquist's place?
Right. Okay. So that's where we got confused. Okay, because I was thinking of Pato for some reason. I don't know why I was thinking of Pato, but that's where I got confused. My apologies. now that we've corrected that, let's get back to topic. One last thing to close out this IndyCar segment, something that I'm actually excited about, and Chris, I know you're not. We have an IndyCar All-Star race. The $1 Million Challenge is to be run at the Thermal Club on March 20th, 2024. If I am reading this correctly, there are going to be 2 heat races to determine the field so from the top 6 from each race are to determine the field. Only 12 drivers are to compete. And yeah, basically the same thing as the NASCAR All-Star race, but on a road course. How are we feeling about that? Because like I said, Chris, I know that we've talked about this off air, but I know you're not feeling great about it.
I mean, the idea is fine. I don't have a problem with the idea and even the race itself, but oh man, they're starting to NASCARify IndyCar, and that's the last thing we need. Because next thing you know, we'll have the playoffs in IndyCar, then we're going to have stages, then everybody's going to be complaining about how tired they get because they didn't get a stage break.
IndyCar needs the playoffs, and I want to see IndyCar Twitter have a meltdown like NASCAR Twitter does.
If you say that you want IndyCar to have the playoffs, I will travel down to Asheville or wherever you live, and I will come into your room there, and I will slap you.
That's okay, because I've got 2 swords sitting behind my desk, so I know how to defend myself.
Oh, he's ready. He's ready for you.
I have one in the background.
And a lightsaber.
I got 2 lightsabers. Handy.
Yay!
I got them on Temu.
Oh, interesting. We've kind of just gone off the rails, haven't we? That's fine. So Mason, yeah, that's kind of what we do. Mason, how are you feeling about this All-Star race for IndyCar?
I'm not against it. I think it's a good thing, and I think it's going to add, maybe a little something to them that. But to Chris's point as well, it does feel a little gimmicky, and I think I just have a sour taste in my mouth just because, like, I'm not going to say I'm a gimmick hater because I've never been. I've been a playoff supporter. I've been a supporter of a lot of the stuff that NASCAR's come up with. However, I do have a limit when it comes to that stuff, and I felt like this year was kind of the point where I did hit that limit. And so, like, now it's like IndyCar's like making these moves, and like obviously I'm not a huge fan of what they've done with the finale for next year, but at least this one I feel like I'm more willing to bite. So that's what I would say. It's not my favorite move in the world. However, it's something I can buy into more than I can the whole finale thing for next year because I can't buy into that for next year. Personally.
There are 2 extremes when it comes to being gimmicky. One of them is Formula E, which I don't know if you've ever watched a Formula E race, but that's a mess.
Yeah, Formula E is the truck series of Formula, basically.
Okay, so in case you don't know, Formula E has these boosts. It's all electric racing series that the FIA is a thing, and it's all electric racing series, and pretty much one of the biggest things that they do is they have these boost section things that you drive over, kind of like it's Mario Kart or something.
Yes.
And you get a boost to power, and you can only drive over them for like twice. And then you have also some boost there and with the car and that you can turn on. It's a mess. Then to make it even more gimmicky, fans can vote on Twitter of who should have an extra boost. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Oh, I hate that.
that is as gimmicky as you can get. And then, of course, NASCAR has the stages in the playoffs, which is the second extreme.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Fans voting on who should have the extra boost, Mario Kart boost.
So I just looked it up. The 2024 IndyCar schedule has not been officially released. There's really only 3 dates that are certain to be on the schedule, and that's Nashville, Indianapolis 500, and this All-Star race. So I would expect that this will either be the season opener or there will be a couple races in early March, and this will be their All-Star break, which is kind of really weird timing. But if they start their season with this race, I would not be opposed to it.
That's not such a bad thing. I don't have a problem with it. It's like it's kind of like an exhibition bud shootout thing that NASCAR does.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good thing to like get the season going.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before, but I think it'd be cool to have NASCAR have a shootout at the at Wilkesboro.
They had it, and it's called the All-Star race earlier this year.
No, like a preseason shootout.
I know.
Like
I was kidding around. Yeah, it could be interesting because they really haven't announced anything as far as the Clash next year. But like we were talking earlier off air, we could be getting anything any day now in the next 2-3 weeks. So fingers crossed for Cup schedule soon. But all in all, IndyCar All-Star race is going to be March 26th, 2024. So interesting idea for IndyCar. It's nice to see them trying things out because, I mean, like I said, they don't have the playoffs, they don't have the stages, which is perfectly fine. Nothing too gimmicky, but as long as they're trying something out, I'm okay with it.
Personally, if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Honestly, that's fair.
Because that's what I feel like they did with NASCAR for the last 20 years.
No,
it's a little broken, but they overfixed it.
That's fair. Speaking of NASCAR, let's get right into our NASCAR segment, why don't we?